Hi, I am Crystal Newman, back with more on preventing violence against children. As always on this show, we aim to be thought-provoking, and we want you to question some of the things that you do every day and how you handle the children in our lives. Now, we share personal stories with you, personal, compelling stories with you. We'll be talking to someone later, an expert who is very passionate about preventing violence against children. Today's topic is community heroes. Who are community heroes, you might ask? Community heroes are normal people, ordinary people who do extraordinary things for children. They speak out when other people keep silent. They act when others hesitate. They do something when others do nothing. You can be a community hero. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
The story I'm going to tell is a trip the students finally chose. We go, we go, we go, we go, we go, we go. That did it. They were screaming and yelling and tripping and piling on top of one another for the milestone they were now covering. Finally, it had happened. But what was this milestone? It happened the day that school started, third term. After convincing their geography teacher, Miss Zaramba, for months on end, she finally gave into what had not happened in the history of the school before. Had you ever heard of a situation where primary school kids were given a chance to choose a trip on their own? Never in history, but she did it. She accepted that they could decide as a class where they would go for the geography trip. So, after 5 minutes of congratulating one another, the triumphant children finally managed to calm down. The rest of the gang surrounded Jenny, who was the most enthusiastic and aggressive of the lot. She was the main representative of the struggle to reclaim trip-making decision. So, where should we go this time for the trip? Asked Jenny. Hey, I want us to go to places where animals are wild, where we were lucky to watch the stately elephant, shouted Lisa at the top of her voice. And everyone laughed. Hey, 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 relax. Can't we have fun visiting places with hills and valleys? Said bold Lumo. And so everyone tended to listen. Okay, fellow students, I think we should take a great trip and follow the river Nile and see it as it journeys northwards. We should certainly see the beautiful and scary crocodile. Kato chipped in. It seemed like everyone had an opinion. Okay. I wish we could tour all the places around Mountain Rwenzori. And it always seems to have its head above the clouds, suggested a moth in a slow voice. Next, Linda had an opportunity to speak. First, tell us the options that we have, she said. And everyone kept silent for a while. Okay, let's go to Entebbe. Let's go to Jinja. That's some fun, Queen Elizabeth. And as Jenny was speaking, Tina cut her short. Hey, I have a great idea. We should choose places that we are almost interested in, because that's when everyone will enjoy, suggested Tina. That's right, shouted Tony. Then they frantically went on in a spirited discussion of choosing places to go to for the trip. They debated and agreed on the places they would choose for their third-term trip. First, each one of them would have a day to think about the places they would possibly go to, and then the next day they would come and discuss together. So the following day when they came back, everyone had an idea. And after this, they sat together and chose the places with more advantages than disadvantages, where they would learn more things than the other places. And so they threw away the other places that had more disadvantages. And finally, they voted on the best places to visit. The next day, the day of the trip came, and they found it fun to have an opportunity to choose a place that they would tour themselves. Wow, it was amazing. It was a lesson that every teacher had to learn, that in involving children in decision making, they would get the children engaged, they would get the children interested, they would get the children to learn much more. So their teacher, Ms. Zaramba, was a spectator in these razzmatazz. She was a unique teacher. Although she ultimately, of course, had a decision, an overall decision in this choice, she still let the children have an upper hand in making a decision concerning what they wanted. So she believed in them and let them be engaged and learn more by making a decision on these field trips. She was convinced that when children were given a chance to make choices, they would make them more confidently and choose what they wanted to do with their lives. However, she was equally surprised to see how many children were participating in this debate. She was amazed at the intensity of the children's engagement, to see children who never even spoke in class before get so enthusiastic. Where was this coming from? She wondered to herself. The days went by and the children went on planning, and finally the day came. Ms. Zaramba had taught them that in decision making there were consequences and responsibilities. So they carefully went about this choice making. They consulted with the headmaster, got his permission, and took consent forms to their parents to sign. Whenever they got lost for what to do, they went to their teacher who would support them. And as they slowly discovered, much to their delight, their teacher was always there to advise them and give them the best guidance. She helped them with the budgeting for the things that they would need for the trip. She also helped the children individually on the things that they needed from their parents for the trip. The day finally came. All the students got on the bus along with the teacher, Miss Zaramba, who was escorting them. They were so excited as they carried their rucksacks, each of them stepping on the bus and cheerfully waving to their parents goodbye. The trip was finally happening, and the group began their trip in earnest and excitement. The geography trip would be like no other in the history of the school. They would spend time seeing places of their interest and not their teachers. It was now real fun because it was their own choice. This must be cool, that we can finally have a trip of our own interest, one that we have chosen for ourselves, exclaimed Jenny. She felt that for the first time, children had been given an opportunity to make a decision on the trip they wanted. And that was their story. Thank you very much.
Today I'm with Inspector of Police, Hellen Christine Agwang, Child and Family Protection Department, Police Headquarters. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now we're going to talk about violence against children. And of course, it is your job, your mandate to prevent violence against children. What is your starting point from a police perspective?
First and foremost, I want the public to get to know our mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Our mandate is to create an environment in which children, women's rights is recognized, respected, promoted, and protected.
Mm-hmm.
By who? By me and you.
By all the community
By
members?
all the community.
Okay. So now when it comes specifically to children and preventing violence against children, what are some of the aspects that you look at?
Before we go on to get to know what we need to protect from the children, we want to get to know who a child is. In a community or under our laws, that is a constitution, Children's Act, under the CRC. The CRC is a legal document, the international document, which talks about the children. It all talks about the children and the age of saying any child below the age of 18 years, regardless of the sex, regardless of anything, whether child is with disability or what, is called a child. Mm-hmm. So now this is where we are drawing up our mandating from to protect the children, protect any child who's below the age of 18 years.
Mm-hmm. Now there are different aspects when it comes to violence against children. Some of them we have talked about in the past, such as sexual violence. You have physical violence, which probably is the most common. What cases have you dealt with that have really made an impact in your career?
Mostly the cases as we talk about, the children are really facing a lot of violence against them in a community. Mm. The children are, as you have just said, the children are faced with sexual abuse. This is the commonest aspect of which the children are traumatized. Children are faced with the psychological torture. You know, when I talk about psychological torture, a child can be abused, a child can be called in all the nonsense. Anything takes place or the violence against the parents or within the community, it still draws back to the child. And a child is psychologically tortured. And this is where you find that when a child goes to school, a child will never cope up. And this is where you go on the drawing board and you find out that these children, at the end of the day, grow in a violent situation, and into the future, they will also become violent. Remember, during the growth and development, whatever the child sees and observes takes it of paramount that that's the right thing. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what it is, and that's what's happening in the community. In another thing or the other way, children are being violated in the denial of having their education being catered for. Mm-hmm. Remember, this is a future for these children. If a child has not been taken account to go for education, and which it's the role of the community, the citizen's duty, under the Constitution, under Section 17, Clause C, which talks about the role of the community in protecting children from all the abuses, the violence, all the harassments mentioned but a few. Mm-hmm. So this is where it is. And also another thing or the other way where we are finding that children and we are counterreacting is, or getting day to day is, children are really being violated. You see, children are being abandoned. Children are locked in their homes. Children, nobody takes about, like if a child has been locked in a house, what does really a community have to take about it? Mm. And they know about it, that this child has been locked in a house. But you'll only see tomorrow that they come up and and talk and tell the Kataliko Fufu that yes, we have been seeing the mother of this child going to the discourse, moving left and right, locking the child in the house. But you as a community, what have you done?
What did you do about it?
Look at the incident of the previous, that is this after Nakawa, you go to before you reach Mukono, there's an incident which happened from there where a mother beat off a child just because of the 200 shillings. But I was so surprisingly when the whole of the community came and gathered by that time, after the death of the child, and yet they were talking ill about the woman having tortured this child previously. One man boldly came up and said, I have been seeing this woman from day one, beating up the child. And what did he do? He did nothing. So these are really the consequences the children are going through. Children are going through a lot of abuses. And when you go back to what is really on the ground, more much from the community there, children are faced with child trafficking. Children are trafficked. Many people think of it that it is only taking a child from one country to another. But trafficking means as far as you have got the child from point A to point B. And you're exploiting this child on a pretext that I'm taking this child for education. Then you divert. Automatically it amounts to trafficking. You find that other children are brought it up in the way that they convince them. A parent down there is convinced, and these people target the vulnerable people who cannot be able to get what they can get at that material time. And they take advantage of those people. They go there, give the money, exchange the money. I'll be bring the money for you for this girl while she's helping me. Meanwhile, the child will be helping me and will go through education. The next thing tomorrow you will hear is the child has been defiled.
Yes.
And let me tell you what really annoys me and perturbs me is when a wife to the husband or the wife or any caretaker, even if the child of that relative is a woman in that home, if she finds it out that it is the husband has defiled this girl, I am telling you the truth, I don't know really what is wrong with us, the women. You find that woman will struggle to protect the status. What are we doing as a community?
What about the child? You have to...
They don't mind about the child. They throw this child out because she wants to protect her marriage. And even in some circumstances, this child come and get up, like getting unwanted pregnancy. A child out of your... You don't expect this child. Where do you take this child? This is where you find at the end result, these children you find on the streets. Somebody cannot stomach it. And you say, if you mention it's my husband, I'll kill you. As a community, this should not happen.
As an individual, it
shouldn't happen. Because this is the generation of tomorrow. This is what really, there's a lot about the violence about children, which we really need to make sure that we as the community, we come up. And the parents, when I talk about the parents, what is your role as a parent? You really need to talk to your children. There is a need for you, have a close vision of your child.
You need to know where they are, what they're doing.
Who are the friends of your child, the peers, and this is where, like when I talk about the growth and development, this is where the child can be influenced. There is nothing during the growth and development we have never done in this world in order to catch up. I used to think those days that bedwetting, it was just like, you have to bedwet, and yet it is part of the growth and development. And when somebody goes on and say that a child is a liar, is trying to check up your minds. And it is you, the mother, if you are not open to your child, to listen to your child, be friendly to your child, it is you who's going to make your child a liar. I was one time, a child asked the mother, "Mommy, what is in your stomach?" You say, "No, I am satisfied." Tomorrow you have given birth, you ask the child, asks you, "Mommy, where do you get the child from?" The child, you tell the child, "I bought this child from the hospital." Are you not teaching this child to lie?
Exactly, yes.
This is where, I'm drawing back to how the children lie. And I'm coming back by saying we should learn to talk to our children. We should learn to guide our children. And also, whom are we supposed to trust with our children? Mm-hmm. Should we trust our children with everybody?
No, and I think you need to listen to your children. If they don't like someone,
yes,
they're not comfortable being with someone, and they're fighting, why should you force them to go to that person?
It's not something which is really right. It's not a very good ideal. That's why the rights of children is one of the issues I say that allow the child to express he or herself. Listen to the child. At that note, you are able to get to judge who your child is, how does your child behave, and one thing which is leading to the violence, the high increase of violence, is the moral behaviors of ourselves. You can't do what is not being expected. You start undressing yourself before the child. You start bathing when the child is seeing. These children of nowadays, they are so intelligent. I want you to understand, they are so intelligent. Then also sending children at awkward hours. All this talk takes you back to say you are a parent. You need to play a very big role in upbringing of your child before you hand over your child to the teacher. Teachers are secondary. We are the primary people to take care of our children and to model our children to where we belong.
So do you have any last words to people who are watching right now and who probably might even know of one of these incidences? They have a neighbor who's beating their child day and night. They have a neighbor who has a 9-year-old house girl.
Thank you so much. I call upon all the community, down there wherever you are, that let us not be silent on violence against children. Let us come up. Previously, the community has been taking a role, and this type of cases have not been there. What about today? Even the laws have been brought in place. There are Children's Act, there are Domestic Violence Act, there are FGM acts, there are Trafficking in Children's Act. What are we doing? Let us join our hands together and we say no to violence against children. Together we can and we'll achieve and have a better generation for our children.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you for your passion. We feel it, and we're going to do something about it. Yes? Thank you. We have talked about community heroes today, and now you know that you can actually be one. If you see something happening in your community, or you come across a child that needs your help, a child that needs your protection, it's time to do something about it. It's time to stand up, speak out, and make sure it stops. A violence-free childhood is everyone's right. My name is Crystal Newman. Thank you for watching. Till next time. Bye-bye.